Hey y'all, this is David with TX Natives. I'm really excited to take y'all on a tour of my personal yard today. I call it the test kitchen because this is where I experiment with all sorts of different plants so I know exactly what to recommend to customers and I can speak to the exact performance of the plants. Just a quick orientation. You'll be right now we're looking at the west side of my yard that receives almost full sun, but we'll start the tour on the east side, which receives almost full shade in the morning, followed by sun in the afternoon. So right out the front door, over to our left, you'll first see some Salvia Greggii. This is called Pink Preference. I love Salvia Greggii for right next to the door. Got some Mexican Feathergrass. This is about 30 scattered throughout here. Then we've got Radio Red Salvia Greggii. Got Prostrata Rosemary, spreads out a little bit. Berkeley Sedge, such a fun grass. Purple Trailing Lantana, definitely a Texas superstar. Got some Santolina. Artemisia Powis Castle. And then to the right, you actually have Artemisia Silver Mounds, which is a lower ground cover version of Artemisia. Over here, this fountain grass, that was a total mistake. It was labeled as Berkeley Sedge, which that was a big surprise, but kind of fun. Here we have Smoky Hills Skullcap. It's a purple flowering skullcap. A little bit more of the Santolina there, a little more Mexican Feathergrass. Here we have Pink Skullcap. We have some natural elements scattered throughout the street parking. Right here we have Texas Betony, which is a red flowering native, really beautiful. A little bit more of the Artemisia and then some four-nerve daisy on the other side of the mailbox. Now we enter into the shadiest part of the yard. Like I said, the live oak from my neighbors is blocking most of the sun throughout the beginning of the day. So we've got about 12 Berkeley Sedge in there. We've got a backbreaker of a limestone boulder. It's over 500 pounds. Took 6 of us to move that. Some Mexican dwarf petunia, flowers white, normally flowers purple. There's some red verbena. There's more of the Mexican dwarf petunia right in there. And then this next part is just kind of a hodgepodge of all sorts of different natives. We've got some red yarrow, we've got some butterfly weed. Here we've got red columbine. It's a native that grows up under oak trees in East Texas. Same with this American beautyberry that you see with the pink berries that are edible. We've got dwarf palmetto right here, also a native, also can tolerate shade, can tolerate full sun. Here we have Hameln dwarf fountain grass, super fun, little compact fountain grass if you're looking for something smaller. Here's Squid Agave, really neat little succulent. This is my first year trying him out of a pot, so we'll see if he survives winter. Here we have purple verbena. This is not the native wildflower Texas verbena, but just a purple variety of the red one. Here we have Gulf Muhly, pink Gulf Muhly specifically, shoots off its plumage in October. A little bit more of the Hameln dwarf fountain grass right there. This next flower bed I'm going to show you is a mix. You're not going to see all of it flowering right now. The first you'll see is dwarf Russian sage. There's also some black-eyed Susan and yarrow mixed in there. I had to deadhead those just because they're past their flowering season. Over here, we have rock candy purple Penstemon. This is a favorite of Neil Sperry's. He's the one that turned me on to these. Almost every single night I'm cooking with herbs, and so oregano, basil, rosemary, all of those are staples in my yard. I like to make sure that gardens aren't just beautiful to look at, but there's also some productivity to them. And there's a little basil there. And then here we have, this is my wife's garden, just because I was like, hey, let's do something fun, something that feels like her. And so we got some elephant ear, we got some caladiums. There's a red flash caladium, really, really fun. They won't survive winter, probably. If they do, that's a bonus. Here we have a giant leopard plant, kind of the giant lily pad looking guy. He'll grow up pretty big. Some more red columbine nestled in between the dwarf palmettos. And then over here we have tiny tink cast iron plant. Such a great variety of cast iron. I'll go into another video about it sometime. It's a little pricey, but I love it, especially for heavily shaded areas. This is a pearl glam beautyberry. It's supposed to skew a little bit more purple than the normal American beautyberry. And then over here on the far east side of my house, got the Yupon holly. Came with the house. It's a native. I think they're a little overdone in suburban areas throughout North Dallas. Here we have winter creeper. It's a newly installed ground cover. It's actually better than Asiatic jasmine because one, it turns a really beautiful burgundy color in the winter and fall. But if it receives freeze damage, it bounces back really quick. This is Jerusalem sage. In the spring and early summer, it blooms really beautiful yellow flowers. Not native, but a really fun perennial. A little bit of white gora right there. Then as we start journeying back towards the west, you'll start to see a lot of Turks Cap. This is going to be kind of the red flower that you see throughout here. A little bit more of the Artemisia. Some more Squid Agave hanging out. This is a decomposed granite walkway with $12 pavers from Lowe's. Here we have black scallop Ajuga. Not native, but a really great spreading ground cover. It'll take a little while for it to get going, but like I said, here's some Turks Cap. These have really taken off. It's part of the hibiscus family. It's a top 3 favorite plant of mine. It tolerates heat, it tolerates drought, it tolerates wet soils. It can put up with just about anything Texas throws at it. This is an 8-foot seating pad with some really fun Polywood Adirondack chairs. We love those. The pad was installed to actually help cover up a crepe myrtle tree that continues to shoot suckers up. Here's more of the Mexican feathergrass nestled in with some white gora. I'm going to redo this area. This is one of those that I'm, just want to experiment a little bit more, try to find some other options. The Mexican feathergrass, I'll actually go in February and we'll cut all these down. And that way it kind of tames the look of them a little bit, but you can also let them just grow wild. All right, now we're shifting over to the western side of the yard. Like I said, it receives almost full sun. So here on the street parking, we've got Mexican feathergrass, Santolina, pink skullcap, some 50-pound boulders. Here we have gay feather. It's one of my favorite wildflowers. It doesn't look terrible once it goes to seed, which I really appreciate. Shoots off real pretty purple blooms come August and September. This area used to have some May-night salvia, but I really like the wildflowers that pop in there, so there's a lot of seed in there. You just can't see it right now. And then I love this bush. This is skeleton leaf goldeneye. Flowers several times a year with really nice yellow flowers. Doesn't need any extra water. Super tough. Awesome native. Can't recommend it enough. I love this western side. Brings me a lot of joy. You'll see the Artemisia is really exploded. Loves the full sun. We've got some elevation changes in here. So my design aesthetic is informal, organic. I like to mimic nature. If you're familiar with the new perennial movement, check it out. It's becoming what's considered a modern aesthetic. Here we have rock rose. It's a native, really beautiful pink flowers that open and close throughout the day. It gets a little leggy though, so I don't always recommend it to customers, especially if we're working in tighter spaces. Here we have Flamacanthus. Hummingbirds love this bush. So much fun. They still like Salvia, I think, a little bit more, but Flamacanthus is right up there. Very, very drought tolerant. A little bit of four nerve daisy tucked in between the rock rose. You can see bees all over the place. If I had to guess, this western side of the yard has no less than 400 bees at any given time, especially when flowers are in full bloom. On really quiet days, you can hear them buzzing around. Here we have my yard signs. Can't stand tacky little plastic ones, so I like to sandblast my some extra pieces of stone, lay them in yards, just have a quiet presence if people want to check it out. Back here, you'll see a little bit of white Gulf Muhly. That was also a surprise. Thought I was buying pink, but I really love that the white came through. Here's one of my all-time favorites. It's not native, but OtO Master explodes in purple blooms come October. In this next section that we're entering into, this is closest to the house. I like that it's tucked back away, and I really experiment with a lot of things in here. Bluebonnets are throughout here. Bluebonnets go to seed relatively early. They're kind of ugly once they've died, so I like to hide that from the view of people. But I still love bluebonnets, and we're in Texas, right? Got to grow them. This is also where I'll do vegetables. So we're doing some Brussels sprouts. That's a cooler temperature vegetable. Got all sorts of seeds in here that are starting to sprout. A little bit more of the Artemisia. You can see how close I put it to the OtO Master. I like seeing it fold in like that. Here we have Dwarf Pomegranate. The fruit apparently doesn't taste that good. I haven't tried it. The fruits are actually very, very small compared to the normal cultivar of pomegranates, but the ornamental value of it is awesome. Be careful though, there are about 1-inch thorns all over the pomegranate tree. Here we have Mirage Purple. It's actually a dwarf Salvia Greggii. So far I've really liked it. Basil's exploding. Mexican bush sage, absolutely covered in bees, explodes in October. Only downside is you don't get much color out of it the rest of the year. Mint, that was a mistake. I knew it. I had mint growing up, but it's trying to take over. There's my OtO Smart Irrigation System. We're trialing those. It's a cheaper alternative to drip irrigation. Here we have Furman's Red Salvia Greggii. It's kind of the cornerstone of Salvia Greggiis. Hummingbirds love this one more than any others. Got a little blue dragonfly floating around kind of there in the middle of the screen. As much as you can, try to attract dragonflies. Their diet is 98% mosquitoes. Everyone always talks about purple martins. Really great bird, but their diet is only 3% mosquitoes. All right, and then as we start to continue west a little bit more, this area, like I said, highly experimental. I want to make some pretty substantial changes to this come spring. Over here, we've got Bamboo Muhly. You see Bamboo Muhly down in Austin quite a bit. Mass plantings of it look absolutely stunning, very drought tolerant. You don't see it in Dallas much, and that's because it really doesn't do too well with freezes. So I might shift that, might transplant that later on. There's some pink Gora. It's also mixed in with some white Gora. Gora is really fun. It's wispy. There's a swale back in there. You'll see some of the river rock. That's actually a water retention strategy. There's some more Turks Cap. Here we have one of my favorites, the Bubba Desert Willow. It's a little bit tighter forming desert willow. It's got darker flowers. It's a little bit more of a prolific bloomer. Attracts a lot of hummingbirds. It's the smallest tree I would recommend. Here we have Rattlesnake Master. Really fun white flowers in the spring and summer. Some Swiss Chard. This is Sierra San Antonio. It's my favorite color of Salvia Greggii. Used to live in San Antonio growing up, and it just reminds me of home. Here we have some more Brussels sprouts. Those will eventually become what you know as the actual sprouts. Little blue stem. This is the blues specifically. Really neat. It's green blue in spring and summer, and then turns burgundy in the fall and winter. Got Russian sage, absolutely loaded with bees. No, it's not native, but it's a really well adapted perennial that attracts more bees than any other flower that I have. There's some more bamboo muhly really coming into play. A little bit more the little blue stem. Some weeds I need to take care of. And then here's Greg's mist flower. It's known for being pretty invasive, so just make sure you're careful with where you plant this. But butterflies normally are covering this. Over here, a little bit more of the bamboo muhly, Gulf muhly. And then one of my absolute favorites right now, Microburst Texas Sage. It's a dwarf, so it gets 3 foot by 3 foot, tolerates wet soil, which is unheard of for Texas sage. And then, of course, it has its normal drought tolerant capabilities. Here's Standing Cypress. It's a wildflower. It was kind of fun. This one started blooming later in the year. Normally, these are only in the spring. They get pretty tall, but they're amazing looking come April and May. Here we have some Mexican oregano. This one struggled back here. This is not a good example of what it normally looks like. Going to transplant it and see if I can get some better results. Edible, purple flowers, really nice. Here we have hardy plumbago. Here we have giant coneflower. I love the look of it, especially in spring. There's some creeping fig back there. It's gonna climb up the wall eventually. Japanese yew came with a house. Thank y'all so much for touring with me through my front yard today. I hope it inspired you. I hope it was informative. If you have questions, please drop them in the comments below. Click like, subscribe, anything helps. I'm available for consultations throughout DFW if that would serve you in your yard really well. Also do designs, and we also do full installs if that's something you're looking for. Thanks so much for watching.